From the land down under, with the rock at its centre, comes the little Aussie watchman. Who is Joseph Mifsud? Just who is Joseph Mifsud? They called him a Russian agent, a CIA asset, a Maltese professor, and part of Italian intelligence. So who in the world is this mysterious figure, and why haven't you heard about him? Last question is the easiest to answer. The mainstream propaganda media do not want you to know who this man is because he is the canary in the coal mine, the smoking gun. He is World Trade Center 7 in the whole Trump colluded with Russia fantasy play planned by the deep state. Confidently labelled by the Mueller investigation as the man with high-level Russian contacts, and by Comey in an op-ed piece as a Russian agent, of course without any substantive evidence. But who needs evidence nowadays? Just say it plenty of times and any numbskull will believe you. Joseph Mifsud was the guy who told George Papadopoulos that Russia had Hillary Clinton's emails, and apparently learnt this from the Russians. What the lamestream media leave out in all of this is that Joseph Mifsud is not a Russian. He's not even a Russian agent. He's apparently a Maltese professor who has extensive ties to the CIA, the FBI, MI6, and Italian intelligence. Let us dissect this down a little and get into the fine detail of the whole crooked mess. In March 2016, 8 months before Donald Trump was elected president, George Papadopoulos was working for an organisation called the London Centre of International Law in the UK. This was an organisation full of Western elites, i.e. ex-Western intelligence and ex-Western diplomats. When George told the organisation he was going to work for the Trump campaign, one of the directors at the London company, Arvinder Sambe, who also happened to be legal counsel for the FBI in the UK and was connected to both Bruce Orr and Robert Mueller, sent him to Rome to meet Joseph Mifsud. In Rome, George Papadopoulos was chaperoned by the Italian Foreign Minister Vincenzo Scotti through the Link campus, a Western intelligence training facility in Rome, and a meeting was set up with the mysterious Joseph Mifsud on March 11th, 2016. Yes, that shadowy Maltese professor who is known for training both Western intelligence assets and diplomats. Nothing Russian-flavoured about that first meeting, though. George then returns from Rome to London, and after a few days, the London Centre of International Law Practice once again sets him up with a meeting with Joseph Mifsud, along with someone who was billed as Vladimir Putin's niece. She wasn't, but that doesn't really matter at this stage. You get the idea. That meeting happened on March the 17th, 6 days after the initial meeting in Rome. All these meetings were set up as a way for George to get to know useful information and contacts with Russians that will help the Trump campaign and its foreign diplomacy. Well, that was the cover. Little did George know that the whole thing was in fact a sting operation. The continued setup was completed on April the 26th when Joseph Mifsud told George that Russia had Hillary Clinton's emails. So Western intelligence led George Papadopoulos to Joseph Mifsud, a Western intelligence asset at the very least, so that Joseph Mifsud could tell George that Russia had Hillary Clinton's emails? Yeah. Now all the setup was required was someone to extract that implanted information. This came by the way of the Australian diplomat Alexander Downer, who had extensive ties with the Australian Secret Service. On May the 10th, 2016, 6 months before the election, George meets Alexander at the Kensington Wine Bar in London, where apparently, although George claims not to remember this, George told Alexander that Russia had Hillary Clinton's emails. This, by the way, was openly speculated in American newsrooms at the time, and therefore not new information. However, Alexander dutifully handed this information over to the FBI, which then led to the most intrusive investigation into a presidential campaign in America's history, Third World style. So just who is Joseph Mifsud, and why haven't you heard about him? Well, he is the canary in the coal mine and the proverbial smoking gun that will blow up in the faces of the deep state who planted false information and planned to take down the Trump campaign. They failed and then went on to try and take down his presidency. It was a coup. It's been a coup the whole time, for which the only recompense will be jail time for those at the top who planned this whole conspiracy.